Velma dies. Hello everyone, Toonshi here, Cartoonshi if you so please, blah 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 blah. Sorry for not uploading the past few weeks, I was taking a mental health break. Naturally, coming back from that and then immediately jumping into Velma could be seen as an unorthodox method of self-harm, but there's a decent amount I actually wanted to discuss, because while yes, the elephant in the room is that Velma got a second season, there's still a lot of stuff surrounding the season's mere existence that I think is worth your time. But anyway, Velma was easily the most despised show that was released last year, and is already in the running for the most hated TV show ever. Do I think it deserves this reputation? Yes and no. Velma is not a good show, it is indeed very bad, and I made an entire video going over how bad it was by reviewing each episode in full. But at the same time, I felt a lot of what people were saying about it was just playing into the hands of the writers, by basically getting super angry at pretty much everything the show did, not realizing that was the entire point, and that when you watch the show with a level head, it really shouldn't even come close to cracking the top 10 worst things you've ever seen. That doesn't really matter, you know, it's just a stupid suggestion really. And because of how much buzz was generated by the show's infamous reputation, it instantly broke records when it premiered and made the show a clear financial success. You know, instead of doing the normal thing when you don't want to directly support something. Oh, but I was in such a hurry to own the libs that I gave them money. Yeah, okay, dude, Kim Cartoons down the corner to the left. Of course, it's not any of this that caused season 2 to exist in the first place. I think this releasing only a year after the first season is proof enough that they were being made back to back, if you're still somehow in denial of that. And this is what I really want to get into today, because a lot of people are confused at the existence of Velma season 2 and are blaming it on hate watching, and the people who are watching the season itself are even more confused because they're watching Velma. So let's actually tackle the season itself. It released all at once this time as opposed to weekly because Warner Bros. Is currently allergic to generating hype and good marketing. Don't ask who would have possibly been hype for Velma, I can only answer that with this image. So I don't actually have time to review every episode individually like I did last time. I want to quickly look at the season itself and then discuss the controversies that have already come from it, along with talking about the actual effects that hate watching has had on the show. Because if people already managed to get the show trending by posting fake screenshots, then I think there needs to be a discussion here. So let's jump right into it after this contractual obligation. This video is sponsored by Raycon. Do you like music? You better, you heathen. But I often tire of earbuds that have substandard sound, constantly fall out my ears, and are also expensive. Thankfully, Raycon's everyday earbuds not only start at about half the price compared to other premium earbuds, but they sound fantastic, and their new upgraded model now features active noise cancellation, so you don't have to listen to the people around you calling you names for listening to Pinkerton. But they're also great for when I'm going on walks and don't want to overhear a domestic dispute. Bristol's a nice place, I promise. And for when I'm reading or vaporizing people in New Vegas. Their ergonomic design helps a ton when it comes to comfort, and they even have multi-point connectivity, allowing you to pair of 2 devices at once. They also come in a lot of neat colors. I chose green earbuds with an ocean case because I'm a fashion disaster, but it's great to have choice. With all of these incredible features, it's no wonder that Raycons are a fan favorite, selling over 3 million of their previous everyday earbuds. If you value great sound, comfort, and customization at an affordable price, then Raycon might just be for you. If you're interested, click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/cartoonshi to get 20% off your Raycon purchase plus free shipping. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this video, and thank you all for helping to support this channel. Just before we begin, I'd like to thank Hacksad for drawing my new avatar stills. Their artwork is absolutely fantastic, and I'm super happy with how these turned out. Look at those halftones. Give them a follow on Twitter and feel free to commission them whenever their commissions are open again. Alright, time for the big question. Is Velma Season 2 better than— No, it's not. Of course it's not. Who do you take me for? Well, there are parts of it that are greatly improved, actually, like the animation. I thought Velma Season 1 looked fine, but Season 2 is definitely a step up visually with some pretty cool looking scenes and great lighting. All the artists who worked on the show should take immense pride in the fact that they've managed to polish a turd to an acceptable standard. Okay, real talk though, kudos to the artists and animators on Velma. They were legit carrying the show on their backs, and the fact that some of you took to harassing them just because they worked on Velma is bitch-made behavior, and you need your diapers changed. It's honestly really depressing that Velma is the show that gets all of these kick-ass visuals. Like, of all of the Western adult animated shows, it really had to be the one with 2 cockroaches dry humping in the first episode that got decent visuals. There's also some other improvements, like the, okay, that's it. This YouTube thing's so bloody easy, I don't know what all the fuss is about. Back on topic though, well, it's Velma. Pretty much everything that sucked last time sucks just as bad here. The show has not been improved, nor has it gotten drastically worse. It's the same as it's been for a while now. Season 2 is even more locked in on the awful teen romance they were going for previously, and there doesn't really appear to be much innovation here beyond the usual arguments between Velma the psychopath and Daphne the time bomb. The writing this time around felt far less inept though, and not in a good way. Like, the show is still atrociously written and unfunny, but unlike last time where it kind of felt like there was a genuine attempt at making a show behind all the cynicism, I just cannot cannot imagine they were writing the romance like this on purpose for this season. The will they won't they between Velma and Daphne is still... Sorry about that, I felt it was necessary. It goes on for 10 straight episodes and there isn't any progress. It's the exact same scene of Velma and Daphne getting close and then one of them either bails or says something inappropriate at the last minute. On repeat. For 10 episodes. Until she dies. And in my mind, I just cannot imagine a universe where this wasn't intentional, or at the very least done with the awareness that it was garbage. This is a Scooby-Doo show, by the way, I think we should get into that. Although both seasons of the show were evidently being made back to back, I do get the sense that the show is still trying to find new ways to make people mad about it, only to generate discourse, because other than the fact that that's literally the show's only objective, a lot of season 2 does feel kinda influenced by the backlash towards season 1, and somehow feels more spiteful, which shouldn't even be possible. Also because no one watching this cares about spoilers, yes, Velma dies at the end at the hands of Scrappy f***ing Doo, because millennial Scooby-Doo writers only have one joke apparently. Look, Scrappy sucked, but punking on him was out of style by the time Mystery Incorporated was airing. Can we at least give him props for being the best part of this show? I genuinely cannot tell if Velma is trying to be an origin story or a parody at this point, because as an origin story, which is what the show was sold as in the first season, it failed on pretty much every level. But even as a parody, it falls flat because it just isn't a good parody of the source material. There are elements of parody here, Scrappy, the comically drawn out romance, the mystery solving not being taken remotely seriously. All of these elements are here, but like, sorry if this isn't my most coherent point, but I can't actually describe what I think Velma is. Scooby-Doo is one of the most parodied IPs in existence, so it's a little embarrassing if Velma was trying to be a parody. Even if you're a parody, you should at least somewhat resemble the source material. But as I explained in the first video on Velma, this isn't a Scooby-Doo show. If you changed all of the characters' names and designs, you would never even begin to link them to their iconic counterparts. And the show not being very focused on Scooby-Doo shenanigans doesn't help that either. And I believe the show would be far better off as a Scooby-Doo parody if they had fixed these problems. But they aren't going to do that, because they know it pisses people off and makes a ton of people angry, which gives the show free publicity. Velma, the show, is nothing. Velma, the discourse machine, is the point, and I fully believe that. It's a show that's completely aware of how many parts of the internet are like, and, sorry for bringing this up, but it's true, because of today's political climate, people are far more likely to blow a fuse at a show that tries to be quote-unquote woke and offensive at the same time. So if you piss off the worst people known to man on both sides of the spectrum while seemingly desecrating a beloved IP that you don't care for, you're gonna make a lot of people mad. And season 2 only continues to double down on that. Velma is a show that is constantly trying to offend by pushing what easily offended anti-woke people think progressive television is actually like, while also pushing what easily offended people on the left are likely to get outraged at. And I'm not a centrist either, this isn't a more both sides problem. That's just what the show is. It's a show with no political or moral compass outside of making everyone mad at it. But unlike something like South Park, which is actively making a point and usually has something to say, and more often than not is actually funny, Velma has nothing to say. So instead of people praising it for successfully accomplishing what it sets out to do, it's rightfully labeled as the pathetic display it is. It's a hack job with no distinguishable merits, and that's all it will ever be. I can't even tell you what happened in Velma season 2 because I began disassociating by episode 3. There's this new character called Amber who's the daughter of Thorne from the Hex Girls, and she's sort of here, I guess. Norville is having visions of Fred's dead mom, and aside from these scenes being some of the most visually striking and cool looking in the show, there really isn't much here other than doing Velma's hallucinations again. Daphne still has the IQ of tinfoil and a personality to match. Velma's a lot more tolerable than in season 1, but is otherwise still a really annoying character. Fred is still on his hot streak of being the only character in the show capable of saying something funny, and throughout most episodes I was just waiting for him to come back on screen. Even though this is absolutely nowhere within the realm of being Fred Jones, he's far and away the most entertaining character. I appreciate that they tried giving the mystery solving a lot more focus this time around, but it's still overshadowed by them doubling down on the romance, and it doesn't help that none of the actual mystery solving is very interesting, nor does it actually make any sense. Also, for some reason the pacing is like a mile a minute this season. Velma was already a pretty fast-paced show, but from the moment season 2 begins, it's doing a full sprint for the next 5 hours of runtime, which on one hand is a good thing because scenes are no longer, well, longer than they need to be, and I don't have to be tortured on a consistent basis for 20 minutes. But also it leads to the show becoming mush, which is the opposite problem. I have nothing else to say about the season itself. It's very bad. I'd hesitate to call it worse than season 1. I think people are just being dramatic. They are both on par with each other. April 25th, 2024. Velma Season 2 released on Max with a resounding Oh wait, what's that? No one cared? Well, here's something you probably didn't know about. While Velma Season 2 was still known about by a lot of people, it shockingly flew under the radar for the vast majority of people for the first 24 hours of its release. And there's a reason for this. For starters, unlike Season 1, there was like no marketing in advance. No teasers, no articles, not nearly as many social media posts. The most marketing Velma Season 2 got was the trailer they put out about 2 weeks before the season dropped, and even then, for a show that was the talk of the town only a year prior, it really didn't seem like it was stirring nearly as much outrage or getting as much attention. I still planned on talking about Velma myself because I knew that a good number of people still cared and were going to start discourse about it, but Velma against all the odds managed to release relatively quietly. For only under 24 hours, because despite basically stealth dropping and only drumming up a minor amount of buzz from the announcement trailer, the next morning Velma was all over Twitter and all over YouTube. And what was the cause for the show suddenly becoming the internet's favorite punching bag again? Well, it was this. There were a few other posts after this that got far more attention, but this post immediately went viral, and for what I saw was the catalyst for Velma being popular again. It was 2 screen caps of the second episode of Season 2, with fake subtitles plastered on screen to make it seem like Velma had made a joke at the expense of Coyote vs. Acme, which for those of you unaware was a live-action hybrid Looney Tunes movie that had garnered a significant amount of praise and interest, only to be included in a tax write-off by Warner Brothers because David Zaslav has no f***ing idea what he's doing. People have been protesting this decision for months now, and the controversy is still fresh on people's minds. Given the current fate of the film is uncertain, and Warner Brothers is basically holding it hostage from other studios looking to buy and release it. Given Velma Season 2 had completely flown under a lot of people's radars, and the phrasing of the subtitles sounded vaguely like a joke that would actually come from the show, combined with the frustration everyone had been feeling regarding Coyote vs. Acme for months now, you can guess what happened next. People lost their goddamn minds. Tens of thousands of people who hadn't watched the season automatically believed this is something the show would do. And this tiny little joke, that was for some reason being posted by an Easter eggs account, f***ing hell man, quickly snowballed into a massive controversy. Sure, now that everyone has hate-watched Velma a second time, people know it was fake, but the thousands of people complaining and the collective hundreds of thousands to millions of people who saw said complaints automatically put Velma back on the map. And from there on, the usual suspects who were hate-watching the show were naturally getting more attention, and they began posting scenes from the show that were designed to make people angry, and sharing them to a large audience of already angry people, who in turn got even angrier. Really petty stuff too, and as someone who greatly dislikes this show, a lot of this was drastically overblown. Like comparing a picture of the original Thorn next to Velma's Thorn, who is canonically older and retired, to drum up outrage over them making a character look less attractive. Dude, they're retired. I just harassing animators and artists who worked on the show, getting so angry at the most minuscule of things in the show, like a joke about the original Velma and Daphne. It was a storm of outrage. It was a repeat of last year's beating session on Velma, but on a much worse scale, given a lot of what was being spread was misinformation, and if it wasn't, it was relatively minor and being blown out of proportion. And this led to the show being hate-watched again, and topping the charts on streaming again, which showed Warner Brothers that Velma is a profitable show for them again. Last year I was of the stance that the announcement of a second season wasn't due to the insane hate watching. They were clearly being made at the same time, a second season was talked about before the show premiered, and generally the most that hate watching season 1 would do would just be showing Warner Bros. That season 2 was worth greenlighting. I think blaming season 2 on hate watchers wasn't entirely fair, especially towards me. We don't even have Max in the UK, how do you think I watched it exactly? Now hate watching Velma season 2 on the other hand, yeah no, I'm done making excuses for people. This show flew past everyone's radars, until a few people got lucky with some of their posts spreading misinformation about it, alerting everyone to the show's existence and causing an outraged circle jerk that has been going strong for the past week now. While a good number of people still cared about Velma Season 2, it was still a sign that viewership was declining, and if it stayed that way, we may not be currently living in a timeline where Velma Season 3 is an actual possibility. Instead, the show got tons of free publicity across social media, people directly tuned into the show on Max, which directly supports it, and now here we are. If Velma does get a third season, then people only have themselves to blame. Velma won by doing absolutely nothing. Next to no marketing at all, it just caught the waves of hatred from the internet and is still surfing on it. It accomplished exactly what it set out to do by making people angry, and as much as I think the show is a hack job, I cannot deny that it's impressive to pull the exact same trick twice in a f***ing row. There's a reason I didn't spend much time reviewing the season, episode by episode like last time. I just don't care, and I would rather talk about the fact that this show, had no one decided to spread misinformation about it, would likely be dead on arrival by now. You shouldn't have to make shit up just to efficiently hate on Velma and get people on the same page as you. The show provides more than enough reasons to be shunned for years to come, but all of this stuff is officially completely overblown, and if Velma does get a third season, I don't think I'll be paying it much mind, because this seems like a cycle that's gonna continue forever at this point. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Stop watching Velma and play Yakuza or something.